They say love shows up when you least expect it, sometimes dressed in expensive suits, and sometimes in torn jeans with a cracked watch on the wrist. But for Emma Parker, love appeared at the loneliest corner of a dim cafe on a rainy evening, carrying 2 paper cups of coffee and a smile so gentle it disarmed every wall she had ever built. Little did she know, that man, the one everyone thought was broke, struggling, invisible, was actually the heir to one of the biggest business empires in the city, a man who had everything yet chose to live like he had nothing, just to find someone who could love him for himself. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that true love always finds its way back, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to StoryNest. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a journey of hearts, disguised fates, and the silent miracles that happen when love looks beyond appearances. Emma Parker was a woman whose soul had learned the hard way that life doesn't always give back what you pour into it. She was 28, a school teacher living in a small apartment on the quieter side of the city. Every morning she'd take the same bus, past the same bakery, and watch people rush past her, lovers holding hands, colleagues laughing over coffee, families planning vacations, and she'd wonder if life had forgotten to write a chapter for her. She had been cheated once, deeply, by a man who only loved her for what she could give. Since then, her heart had lived behind quiet walls. Her best friend, Natalie, tired of seeing Emma alone, signed her up on a dating app. It was meant to be harmless, just try a blind date, she had said, you never know. Emma had laughed it off, but that night, scrolling through profiles, she found one that didn't seem to try too hard. A man named Liam. His profile picture wasn't polished or edited. It was just him, sitting at a bus stop, with a faint smile and eyes that looked like they'd seen both joy and pain. There was something calm about him, no luxury in his background, no display of wealth, no filtered perfection. Just real. They exchanged a few messages. His words were humble, kind, and surprisingly deep. He didn't ask her where she lived, what car she drove, or what brand she wore. He asked her what made her happy on bad days. He asked what her childhood smelled like. He asked what kind of sunsets she liked. And somehow, through those simple questions, he reached corners of her heart she thought were long sealed. Their first meeting was at a little cafe downtown, one that smelled of cinnamon and old jazz. Emma arrived early, nervous, wearing her simplest beige dress. She had told herself not to expect too much. But when Liam walked in, her breath caught. He wore a faded jacket, a white shirt slightly wrinkled, and shoes that had clearly seen better days. He looked like he worked hard, like life had tested him, yet there was something dignified in the way he carried himself. He ordered 2 coffees, handed one to her, and said with a soft grin, "You look like you needed this." The date wasn't magical in a cinematic sense, there were no candlelit tables or expensive dishes. But it was magical in the way it felt. They talked for hours. He told her he worked odd jobs, construction, delivery, sometimes helping at a car wash. He said he believed that people shouldn't be judged by what's in their wallet, but by what's in their heart. Emma listened, strangely drawn to the simplicity in his voice. There was a quiet strength there, the kind that comes from having nothing to prove. Days turned into weeks. Liam and Emma began seeing each other often. He would meet her after her classes with cheap takeout and stories that made her laugh. He'd walk her home through the rain, sharing his umbrella even though it was torn at the edges. Once, he fixed her broken bike without saying a word. Another time, he surprised her with a book she'd mentioned she loved as a child. Little gestures. Quiet care. Things that money could never buy. But deep down, Emma's insecurities whispered. People around her began to notice, her colleagues asked why she was dating a poor guy. Natalie even warned her, saying she deserved someone who could give her a comfortable life. Emma tried to silence those voices, but they crawled into her heart, slowly poisoning the peace she'd found. One evening, when the rain fell heavier than usual, Liam came to meet her at the cafe again. He looked tired, his clothes wet, his shoes muddy. "I had a long day," he said softly, handing her a single white rose. Emma smiled faintly, but inside, doubt was growing. That night, she asked the question she'd been holding back for weeks. "Liam, are you happy with where you are? Don't you ever wish for more?" He looked at her for a long time, his eyes calm. "Sometimes," he said. "But I've learned that having less can teach you who truly stays with you." Because when you have nothing, love becomes pure, no conditions, no masks. Emma didn't respond. She just nodded. But something inside her broke quietly that night, not because she didn't love him, but because she was scared of where this love might lead. Could she build a future with a man who didn't even have stability? Could love alone fill the empty spaces of real life? The next week, she started pulling away. She didn't reply to his messages right away. She made excuses not to meet. And finally, one cold evening, standing under the flickering streetlight outside her apartment, she told him it was over. She said she needed someone more settled. The words stabbed her as she said them, but she forced herself to walk away. Liam stood silent for a long moment, rain dripping from his hair, before he whispered, "I understand." He didn't beg. He didn't chase. He just smiled faintly and said, "Take care, Emma." Days turned into months. Emma tried to move on, but every street, every smell of coffee, every sudden rain reminded her of him. She dated again, men with cars, careers, charm, but no one made her laugh like Liam did. No one listened the way he did. Her life felt full, yet unbearably empty. One afternoon, while scrolling through her phone at the cafe where they first met, Emma froze. Her eyes landed on a news article. Liam Anderson, newly appointed CEO of Anderson Holdings, revealed as the only heir to the late Charles Anderson's billion-dollar legacy. The picture beneath the headline nearly made her drop her phone. It was him. Her Liam. Clean-cut, wearing a suit, standing behind a podium with the same calm eyes that once smiled at her over coffee. Emma's heart raced. She read on. The article explained that Liam had been living undercover for nearly 2 years after his father's passing, trying to understand the struggles of ordinary people before taking over the empire. He wanted to see life without privilege, to find truth beyond gold. And now, after his period of silent learning, he had stepped back into his world, the world she had unknowingly walked away from. Tears blurred her vision. She remembered his words, "When you have nothing, love becomes pure." She realized he wasn't testing life, he was testing love. And she had failed. Emma spent sleepless nights wrestling with regret. She wanted to apologize, to tell him she hadn't meant to judge him, that she missed him more than anything. But when she finally gathered the courage to see him, it wasn't easy. She found herself at the tall glass doors of Anderson Holdings, her heart thudding. The guards looked at her skeptically, but one of them recognized her name. She was escorted upstairs to the executive floor, where everything gleamed with wealth, marble floors, gold accents, and walls that smelled like new success. And there he was, Liam, standing by the window, looking out over the city. When he turned and saw her, for a moment, time stood still. He didn't look angry. Just distant. Emma spoke softly, her voice trembling. She told him she was sorry, that she had let fear and insecurity blind her. She said she didn't care about his wealth, that she missed the men who walked with her in the rain, who brought her cheap takeout and made her believe in simple love again. Liam listened quietly, his expression unreadable. Then, he walked closer, his eyes softening. "Emma," he said, "the truth is, I didn't hide who I was to test you. I did it because I was tired of people loving what I had. I wanted someone who would love me when I had nothing." He paused, his voice low. "And you did, for a while. That part was real. Maybe that's enough to forgive the rest." Tears rolled down her face. She nodded, unable to speak. Liam smiled faintly and said, "I don't know where life will take us next, but thank you for being the one who reminded me what love is supposed to feel like." And with that, he walked past her, leaving her standing there, heartbroken but changed forever. Months later, Emma received a small envelope in the mail. Inside was a note in Liam's handwriting, "Sometimes the right people meet at the wrong time. But I'll always be grateful for every rainy evening, every laugh, every moment you believed in me before the world did. L." Emma sat by the window, tears glistening, as the rain began to fall again, the same kind of rain that had once brought him to her. She realized that love wasn't always about ending up together. Sometimes, it was about learning who you are when someone shows you your worth. Before we end, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love isn't about wealth, looks, or status but about kindness and truth, please like, share, and subscribe to StoryNest. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps more hearts find hope again. And before you go, tell us in the comments below, would you still love someone if you thought they had nothing to offer but their heart? Because maybe, just maybe, that's where the richest kind of love begins.